Ginny Thomas says that she'd be delighted to testify before the January 6th Commission so long as she's not asked any questions pertaining to January 6th. The World Health Organization declares monkeypox a public health emergency. A new poll finds that half of Americans think there will be a civil war in the near future, and Donald Trump is considered for the Congressional Medal of Honor for heroically dimming the lights on Air Force One as it landed in Iraq. This is Thursday, July 28th. 2022, and this is the rundown. Presumably. We'll see. Hello, all. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and thank you for joining us. While Ukrainian forces are slowly but surely losing ground in the east, they've been gaining ground in a bold new counteroffensive in the south, spurred in part by new artillery, which allows them to strike anywhere inside of Ukraine. This has allowed them to destroy multiple Russian ammunition depots and critical logistical infrastructure, and caused what we believe to be an extreme ammo shortage across much of the Russian front lines. The counteroffensive looks like it's designed to break the land bridge between Crimea and Donbass, which would dramatically reduce the Russian ability to resupply most of their front lines from the sea. We've talked about that before, so we'll probably get into that maybe a little later today in the show. A group of former, stand by one here, just want to make sure we got one thing. I'm going to need to make sure there's always something. A group of former Republican and Democratic officials are forming a new political party called Forward. They hope to appeal to what they call the, quote, moderate common sense majority in an op-ed published by the Washington Post yesterday. David Jolie, Christine Todd Whitman, and Andrew Yang wrote that, quote, today's outdated parties have failed by catering to fringes. As a result, most Americans feel that they aren't represented. Andrew Yang told CNN's New Day that, quote, when you ask about policy goals, the fact is that a majority of Americans actually agree on really divisive issues. Most divisive issues of the day, like abortion or firearms, there's actually a lot of common sense coalition positions on these issues, and just about every other issue under the sun. They're hoping to gain legal recognition in 15 states by the end of 2022, and nearly all states by 2024. Quote, when you have 50% of American people saying that they are registered independent, people are sick and tired of what they're seeing in Washington and the fact that nothing major is getting done, it's frustrating them. We have big problems, and we want to see those problems resolved, Whitman said. Far-right Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orbán, gave a speech in Romania over the weekend in which he bemoaned the flood of migrants being forced on Hungary. He said that Hungary should, quote, not become peoples of mixed race, and that countries with high levels of mixed races are in fact not even countries anymore. Hungary was the sole dissent in a plan to wean Europe off of Russian natural gas, arguing that rationing was counterproductive and that Europe actually needed more natural gas, saying, quote, the past shows us German know-how on that. The comments were condemned by Romania's foreign minister and one of Orbán's strongest allies and advisors. I'm going to butcher this one. Zuzana. I think it's Zuzana. I'm going to go with Zuzana. Apologies for getting that wrong. This is even harder. Hedgedus, who said that the speech was, quote, purely Nazi diatribe worthy of Joseph Goebbels, and that it would have appealed to, quote, the most vile racists. Orbán rejected the charge, pointing out that his government has a, quote, zero-tolerance policy on anti-Semitism and racism. The International Auschwitz Committee of Holocaust Survivors condemned the speech and The leader calling the remarks, quote, stupid and dangerous, and calling on EU leaders to, quote, make it clear to the world that a leader like Mr. Orban has no place in the future of Europe. Orban is slated to speak at the conservative CPAC conference in Dallas next week. If Trump's reelected, I'm sure he'll make a delightful addition to the U.S. Supreme Court. Trump is widely expected to announce his candidacy for president of the United States. It's reported that he's been eager to do so as soon as possible, but his advisors and top RNC officials are pushing for him to wait until after November, fearing that an announcement sooner could damage conservative chances in the midterms. In an effort to slow Trump down a bit, the RNC has threatened to pull the nearly $2 million pledged. That's pledged, not donated, for those of you who are interested in the difference. Pledged to defending his business and administration from lawsuits if he runs. Let me rephrase that because I said that very poorly. If he runs, the RNC has threatened to pull nearly $2 million pledged to defending his businesses and his administration from lawsuits, citing concerns for neutrality. At a Trump rally this weekend, Mike Lindell, supporter of Trump and the infamous My Pillow guy, whom we've discussed more than once, was asked about political apathy over the last 30 years. This is his reply.
You know, in politics and over, the last 10, 20, 30 years, no one cared. No one paid attention. No one was looking at what they were doing.
I certainly didn't. I was on crack.
Right. Well, but
that's a good excuse. I can't really use that excuse myself, but,
Former Trump top advisor and My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. In what has loosely been labeled as a policy speech, Trump proposed drastic measures to curb crime, including the death penalty for drug dealers. I was actually just gonna quote it, but let's see it.
It's time to get brutally tough on the dealers and traffickers and narco-terrorist cartels who are stealing over 200,000 American lives a year. And that's a very low number compared to what the real number is. It's a very think of it, 200,000. You don't lose that in wars. You don't lose that in wars. And yes, these drug traffickers should and must receive the death penalty. And I'll tell you, just from dealing with the heads of other countries, I said to President Xi of China, do you have a drug problem? No, no, no. Why do we ask such a question? No. He almost didn't know what I was talking about. No, no. I said, why do you think? Well, if somebody is selling drugs, they get the quick trial. Quick trial. Never forget. What is quick trial? Meaning it goes fast. And they get the death penalty. But when I asked him, I said, do you have in any way no drug problem? They do have a drug problem. You know what they do? They make drugs and send them into our country, but I had it stopped. That was the drug problem they had.
We'll discuss that in a minute. Trump also attacked teachers during his Turning Point Action speech.
You would not trust these people to babysit your children for 20 minutes. And why should we then let them educate millions of American students 6 hours a day, year after year after year? Whatever it takes, the conservative movement must liberate America's children from the captivity of these Marxist teachers.
In a concordant note, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton went on Fox News and said, quote, we can't stop bad people from doing bad things. We can potentially arm and prepare and train teachers and other administrators. We can stop bad people from doing bad things. We can, that, in my opinion, is the best answer, to respond quickly. I find it very telling that Texas seems to agree that teachers aren't qualified to babysit your children, but should be the first line of defense for them in a shootout. It's almost hard to believe why states like Texas and Florida are having a hard time getting teachers. Meanwhile, the conference was closed out, I guess, by Congressman Matt Gaetz, who came on to talk about the controversial abortion issue, which destroys families and is possibly the single most divisive issue in this country, with lives hanging in the balance, shattering families and lives on all sides. And he discussed it with his characteristic dignity and poise.
Have you watched these pro-abortion, pro-murder rallies? The people are just disgusting. Like, why is it that the women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions? Nobody wants to impregnate you if you look like a thumb. These people are odious on the inside and out. They're like 5'2", 350 pounds, and they're like, give me my abortions or I'll get up and march and protest. And I'm thinking, march? You look like you got ankles weaker than the legal reasoning behind Roe versus Wade. A few of them need to get up and march. They need to get up and march for like an hour a day, swing those arms, get the blood pumping, maybe mix in a salad.
In an effort to address Florida's growing teacher shortage, Governor Ron DeSantis has decided to allow military members, former and present, as well as reservists, to become teachers. They need to have graduated high school, have some college credits, and they can get a 5-year provisional teaching license. Cameron Ward, president of the 𝐒𝐤𝐜𝐡𝐨𝐥𝐚𝐬 County Teachers Union, said, quote, there are many people who have gone through many hoops and hurdles to obtain a proper teaching certificate. Educators are very dismayed that now someone with just a high school education can pass a test and get a 5-year temporary certificate. That county is short 60 teachers so far, 60 vacancies that they are trying to fill. I suppose it makes sense filling it with military at this point. Florida appears to be saying that military experience is a better qualification for teaching than actual experience teaching. As a bonus, I suppose they're already armed. Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Green came out as a Christian nationalist today. She wrote, or tweeted, I should say, quote, I'm being attacked by the godless left because I say I'm a proud Christian nationalist. These evil people are calling me a Nazi because I proudly love my country and my God. The left has shown us exactly who they are. They hate America. They hate God, and they hate us. Former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense William Wolf echoed a similar statement.
Lord willing, we'd like to see all 330 million Americans profess faith in the Lord Jesus Christ and therefore seek to make this a nation that is bending the knee to King Jesus, who rules over all. This is standard stuff. It's not scary, and it's only scary, I'll say this, because groups like Right Wing Watch and other secular leftists are trying to use Christian nationalists as a pejorative to out-group everyday Christians.
It's worth noting that both of these people are staunch supporters of the Second Amendment, saying that it's necessary, it's part of the Constitution, and our founding fathers had it there for very good reasons which can't be ignored. Well, it's not just the leftists who are scared of the ideas that Marjorie Taylor Green and former Assistant Secretary Wolf espouse. Quote, religion and government will both exist in greater purity and the less they are mixed together, said James Madison. The purpose of the separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe with blood, he wrote. Strongly guarded is a separation between religion and government in the Constitution of the United States. The danger of encroachment by ecclesiastical bodies may be illustrated by precedents already furnished in their history. Thomas Jefferson wrote, quote, Christianity neither is nor ever was a part of the common law, and that, quote, erecting a wall of separation between church and state is absolutely essential in a free society. Thomas Jefferson went on to write, in every country and in every age, the priest has been hostile to liberty. question with boldness even the existence of God. George Washington said, "The United States of America should have a foundation free from the influence of clergy. All national institutions of churches, whether Jewish, Christian, Turkish, appear to me no other than human inventions set up to terrify and enslave mankind and monopolize power and profit," said Thomas Paine. The government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, according to John Adams in the Treaty of Tripoli. And to make this point crystal clear, they deliberately excised any reference to God whatsoever in the Constitution. God is not mentioned once in our single most important document. But religion is mentioned in the Constitution. It's mentioned before protection from unreasonable search and seizures and the necessity of the government to get a warrant to arrest you or to search your property. It comes before the right to a trial by jury, before the right to assemble, before the right to free speech, before even, God forbid, the right to bear arms. The very first words of the Constitution of the United States, the First Amendment to that Constitution, which I've been told by conservatives they value. Those words read, quote, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion." Meanwhile, the, quote, "good guy with a gun" campaign gets a cookie today, as last Sunday, a armed civilian stopped a mass shooting by killing a man who opened fire in a food court, killing 2 people and injuring 2 more. We also, hold on. What? Yeah. I'm hearing the very next day 6 bystanders in Denver were injured by 3 good guys with a gun as they opened fire on a man, Jordan Waddy, a civilian with a gun, who they claimed was menacing them. Police later acknowledged that he did not appear to be holding the gun by the grip, but rather by the slide in an effort to surrender the weapon. Again, 6 bystanders in Denver injured by 3 good guys with a gun as they opened fire in a crowd, attempting to hit Jordan Waddy, who presumably was surrendering his weapon. And cookie gone. During a speech at Turning Points USA on Saturday, Trump recalled his bravery in the face of certain death and lamented that he was not eligible for the Congressional Medal of Honor. He recounted the incident in question when on board Air Force One as it landed in Iraq. He had to dim the lights in order to help the plane avoid detection. He said, quote, "I said, 'Captain, we're pretty low. I don't see a runway. I don't see anything.'" Trump reported that after landing, he went to the captain again and said, quote, "How did I do, Captain? Was I brave? I didn't think you were going to land." It was then that Trump decided that he deserved the Congressional Medal of Honor. Medal of Freedom and Congressional Medal of Honor are 2 different things. The Congressional Medal of Honor, our highest military honor awarded for gallantry in action, selflessness, and heroism above and beyond the call of duty. He believed it should be awarded to himself. Unfortunately, turns out it's a military honor and can only be awarded to U.S. servicemen. He lamented the unfairness of the situation, saying, quote, "I wanted to give myself the Congressional Medal of Honor, but they wouldn't let me do it. I've always wanted that. But they wouldn't let me do it. They said it was inappropriate." All right, and then standby 1 here. Oh, all right, yeah. Thank you. Monkeypox, a highly painful disease that can lead to severe illness and death, is on the rise across the world. It is considerably less contagious than COVID. However, the CDC warns that the fatality rate is higher. Modern numbers appear to be between 3 and 6% mortality rate. While most of the cases thus far have been linked to sexual activity, it is not considered a sexually transmitted disease. It is spread primarily through prolonged direct skin-to-skin contact and can be transmitted through kissing, hugging, cuddling, and, of course, sexual intercourse. Lesions on the body can actually shed the virus onto bed sheets and towels and other linens and infect other people. While rare, we have cases of this happening. Gay and bisexual males are considered the highest risk group, as are individuals who have sex with multiple or anonymous partners. The CDC has suggested avoiding crowded clubs, raves, and sex parties to reduce one's risk of exposure. The CDC hopes that by aggressively dealing with monkeypox now, we can keep it from becoming endemic in the United States and across the world. Lastly, just an interesting highlight. Saudi Arabia has unveiled plans for a new city codenamed The Line. It is expected to house 9 million people, but will be made of just one building, stretching over 106 miles, which they claim will have no roads, no cars, and run entirely on renewable energy. And that is the rundown for today, the 28th of July, August 2022. So, yeah, monkeypox is old news. I know. Well, so I do apologize. A lot of this is reasonably old. I've been, I was on vacation, and so, pardon me, the cough hasn't gotten much better, but I was on vacation, so I missed a couple of rundowns and wanted to catch up on a few things. I will say, I in thinking on what we were putting here. First of all, I hope you will come join us on the Discord. You will find all of the sources that we use there on the Discord. You can also contribute. We're a really the news that we put on is largely gathered and collated by members of the community. So I hope you'll come in, at least check out what we do. And if you're interested, participate. We have a lot of discussions. We have channels on virtually any subject. I will say it was concerning I will admit to taking a few pot shots at some reasonably easy targets on conservatives tonight. Honestly, my choices when going over the Discord and going over the news for the last couple of days, some of it was slim pickings. It's been, in terms of trying to keep it, dignified and respectful, in terms of the what's happening on the far right, which is becoming more and more center in this country. A lot of it is very alarmist. We've had a few neo-Nazi incidents in this country, and we've put those on the Discord as well. I didn't mention those because, well, again, I certainly taking one or two shots at the dignity of the far right. We don't know. There's always incidents like this, so we have to be a little careful as to just how much is it on the rise versus how much of it is sort of par for the course. We do know gun violence is on the rise. We do know that incidents like this are on the rise, but we're gonna try to get a better handle on it before we do a deep dive on it and get a better handle on how much it is and what's happening right now in regards to those issues. But they're there. I felt we should wait on some of the more alarmist stuff. There may be cause for alarm, but we're going to proceed with caution as we try to do in general. So having said that, I will say Trump's speech and regarding his policy speech, we know a good deal about the idea of getting tough on crime. Now, this is not an idea that was exclusively conservatives. If I recall, if memory serves, Reagan was the one who championed it. Clinton was a big fan, and later recounted that was probably one of his biggest mistakes. His biggest had to do with bin Laden, but one of his deepest regrets in office was jumping on board with a tough on crime agenda. I understand the thinking behind it, but the problem is we know now that the human mind is incapable of accurately determining the difference between the 7 years and 30 years in prison. The reason is past 3 or 4, it's a life-changing event. Your life will never be the same. Nothing you know will ever be the same. Beyond 2 years, the number, it's not additive. It's not 14 years isn't twice as bad as 7. It's just not. Psychologically, it's maybe 10% worse. than sevenths psychologically. But in terms of the damage you do to the actual human being, in terms of the damage you do to society, to that person's children, to the taxpayers who have to pay for that. And not to sound indifferent to all the rest of the suffering, but I'd like to point out, we have 1/3 the population of China. 1/3 the population of China. And we have more people in prison than they do. and they're not a, quote, free country, not even close. We're the land of the free. We have more people in prison than any other country on the planet. We know what he's talking about. What Trump is talking about in that clip does not work. And I'm not a big fan of this, quote, fast trial thing. That's been tried too. It doesn't end well. That was, but that was so typical Trump. And he was talking about, I think he said, did he say 200,000 lives stolen? There was some comments that he appeared to be a little more disoriented in the speech than usual. There's always speculation about that kind of thing. Time will tell. But when we saw him prepping for we saw in the January 6th Commission his prep work for his speech that he was going to give, and he had a hard time reading words like yesterday. And that was informative. At any rate, speaking of losing your train of thought, people in glass houses, I suppose. I found it telling that he said, how many lives had been stolen. I think he mixed his metaphors there, and then said it much more than that. Actually, the real number is higher than that, and you get to see how his mind works. He realized that number didn't sound as dramatic as he wanted to, so then he goes, well, the real number is higher. If the real number were higher, he'd have started with the real number. None of us say, well, it's this number, but that's the fake number. The real number is, oh dear Lord, I don't even know where to begin. I'm back after a week off. I'm getting back to getting triggered by really rather silly things that he said. So, anyways, I don't know. I think that was the major comments that I had and I was very triggered by the Medal of Honor business. And for those of you who come to the Discord, you'll see we have a couple of clips. I'm going to drop a few more. Jon Stewart's been making the rounds, and he had some interesting comments on the failure to pass the health care for veterans who are suffering from, I think, a chemical exposure that happened as a result of their fighting for this country, doing what we asked them to do, with the promise that they would be taken care of. Many of the GOP congressmen who had voted against it, had actually voted for it beforehand. And it's hard to discern why they changed their minds. The current thinking is that Mitch McConnell was a little ticked off that the previous legislation, I'm spacing what it was, but he had tried to stop it and they got around him. And so it was punitive. I don't know if that's true or not. There's a lot to do to try to tease out what's actually going on there, but it certainly sounds plausible. We know that it looked like it was going to pass beforehand. Now it didn't. And so Jon Stewart made some interesting observations. I'll put some of the clips in the Discord. This was already going to be a longer show than we try to do over time, so I didn't want to play them. But go check that out. But I've had family in the military. I've said this before. My grandfather was a surgeon in Patton's Army, and hand glided. It wasn't a hand glider, but it was a glider. Glided into the city of Bastogne during World War II. While in the Battle of the Bulge, Bastogne had been completely besieged. It was surrounded. There was no way to get to it, so he had to get into a glider. The first one had been shot down. Everybody killed. They still need to get a doctor there, so they put him in. And he volunteers. They couldn't order anybody to do this. Volunteers, gets in, performs surgery for 48 hours straight out of a garage. Shrapnel's coming through. That's not Trump. And I say that story not because I think my grandfather deserved this or that. I say that story because that's a common fucking story. I do rail against some concepts of American exceptionalism when we let that be our get out of jail free card for fucking shit up, and when we say that it means that we can do no wrong, because it certainly doesn't mean that. We were counted out of World War II. We've been counted out of a lot of wars. And we're here because of, I can't even begin to express how I felt when I saw what Trump was saying about the Congressional Medal of Honor. And I can't express my disappointment in conservatives who have always considered themselves to be pro-military, and for whom John Kerry wasn't good enough because his Purple Hearts were earned by just a scratch that could have been healed with a Band-Aid, despite the fact that Bush had just gotten out of it because he's a white guy who's rich and has connections. I don't understand how there's any question as to whether this man should ever be allowed anywhere near the White House again, but there we go. All right. Well, let's see. I saw that one triggered me. That one triggered me. It probably has a lot to do with me being a little more snarky than usual today. All right. So, let's see. Whenever I see Marjorie Taylor Green, MTG, I always think Magic the Gathering. I was like, who's playing Magic? And oh, it's Marjorie Taylor. I don't think I'm going to. Coming out as Christian Nationalist, would you consider her to at least outwardly, if not in private, further to the right than before? Jesus. I can't predict a thing about Marjorie Taylor Green. She's unhinged. We've seen this before. I mean, I go back and look at Michelle Bachmann. I don't even know if this interface, this is, okay, yeah, I probably can't play this. Let me just, it's worth it if I can play this. I doubt it's going to. No, it's not going to play. I'm not going to try it. I have the clip from the Correspondents' Dinners, Obama talking about Michelle Bachmann, who literally said Obama was a sign of the end days. That this God was going to come. We were all going to get raptured during Obama's administration. He was the sign of it. She was presumably phenomenally disappointed when that didn't happen. We've seen this kind of behavior before. Some of it is wish thinking and fantasy thinking. She genuinely thinks she can do no wrong. And in my view, her behavior when she was testifying under oath as to her participation in the ancillary as it wasn't, she wasn't like orchestrating January 6th, but she was putting fuel on the fire, and she'd been doing it for quite some time. And I think the idea that she was guilty of let's say acts of sedition, if not sedition, is easily defensible. And I just think she thinks she can do no wrong. And I think she's going to go in whatever direction she thinks is going to get her the most votes. And it's not a cynical way, believe it or not. I don't think she's sitting there calculating it, and I just think she loves the attention, and I think she loves the feeling that she's really doing something. And so as long as she feels that way, she's going to go, she's going to push the gas on, going further and further right. And I think her beliefs are actually following. I do think her beliefs are following that, but I think she's being led not by her beliefs, but by the attention she's getting. I think that's what drives her, and her beliefs follow. That's my view. Let's see. Sinister Porpoise, I've been told the Constitution has no pronouns. Yes, I heard that too. And then I read the first word of the Constitution, which it turns out is a pronoun. Never mind. I'm not going to get back into, I don't think, okay, to get back to, our discussion on communication, that's not an effective way to communicate with somebody who says that there are no pronouns, and they'll sit there and say, perhaps a better way would be to say, okay, why do you think that? And does it really matter that there are no pronouns? Because their objection isn't, well, there are no pronouns, so it's a silly argument. It's an argument from emotions, so I get it. But it is kind of like, yeah, there are pronouns, and the first word in the Constitution's a pronoun. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to start a fight. I'm just saying. Yeah. Oh, dear Lord. All right. So let me catch up with Florida teaching. Here I come, Zandering. Yeah. Well, and you're equipped. You've got the AR-14. I think you're good to teach in Florida. Yeah. I can't even begin to. And the thing about the teachers. Listen, I taught high school. I've been a teacher in one way or another all my life. I substitute taught. In college even I was a tutor, and I did it all, right. I was a summer camp counselor. I'm a certified archery instructor. I've been teaching in one way or another all my life. It's not easy. I sometimes think it's easy because it turns out I have some skill at it. And I enjoy it, so it's sort of easy for me. I make it look easy. I'm learning every single day. I learn all the ways in which I fail at it and could be so much better. And I've been doing it my entire fucking life. It's not easy to teach high school. It's not easy to teach high school in inner city school. I got my to get my teaching certificate, by the way, for which I did have to have a college degree. I had to have at least a BA. And it had to be in the field that I was going to teach. For me, philosophy and psychology, or history and psychology. Okay, fine, and English. But I did my practicum deliberately in the worst school I could find in my state, which was at the time South High in Worcester. It was an inner city gang school. A teacher had been stabbed the day before I got, the year before I got there with a pencil. The reason a pencil was used was because the students couldn't really get knives into the school anymore because now they had metal detectors, sort of, and nobody was allowed to bring in bags. They just said no bags. So no books, no pencils, no nothing. Try teaching in that environment. Teaching's hard enough when you have the proper tools. Try teaching in that environment. And there are teachers trying to do that all the time. Florida, I really would like to give Florida a hard time and sit there and say that they've got a terrible education system. They don't. They're ranked third, but they're ranked third, first of all, for overall education level. The reason is because so many people with PhDs retire to Florida, and that really improves their numbers. But for high school education, they're still, last I checked, ranked 17th, which is really actually not bad at all. That's not bad. But I have to believe that they're aware, and from what I've seen on the pushback on this policy, part of that is because they're paying their teachers. When I was teaching high school, I did the math, and the pay started out, and I'm in Massachusetts, so the pay started out pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. But when I did the math on the fact that I still had to work summers, because you have to write the curriculum, I'm sorry, I know everyone thinks that the state writes it. No, you get guidelines, but you're the person who writes the curriculum. You have to do grading. You're expected to, as you should, stay after school with students who need more work, more help. You have to work weekends when you have to do all the grading. You have to get caught up on, absolutely. And vacation time, most of that is gone. It's sunk. I was earning about $12 an hour. That's what I was earning. Teachers who've been at it for a while and have learned to, really streamline things, do better. But you want to understand why I was earning $12 an hour. I think teachers are worth more than that, and I think states that recognize that usually do better in education. I think I could never do what people in the military do. I could never do that. But that doesn't mean they're going to make great teachers just coming off the boat without training, and I assume I haven't looked into the program, I assume they're going to get some training. The other thing that they're going to get is which apparently is a saving grace, is that they're going to get a teacher mentor who's going to walk them through this. Except that teacher's already underpaid, has too much to do, and now has to be armed because the state is trying to push guns on them. They're going to have to do training, and they're probably getting paid $12 an hour as it is. And the former president of the United States just said they can't even be trusted to babysit. I think we have a problem. And it's not just Florida, who again, by the way, 17th in the country isn't bad at all. Yeah, right. Wizards of the Coast sue Marjorie Taylor Green. Yeah, there's an idea. They both are in fantasy land. I think it's going to work great. Rez, good to see you. Good to see everyone. Mr. Sucker, I'm a teacher aide and I make $13 an hour roughly. Yeah. I mean, and the teachers that have been at the school longer than I made more. They worked a little less because they had found ways to streamline it. And, especially my first year, I had to change the curriculum to what, I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. But when you take a look at, and I agree, part of this is government regulation. Is 𝐓𝐢𝐬𝐷ering still here? Because if 𝐓𝐲𝐻𝑒𝐿𝐷ering's here, I'm not going to say, okay, I think 𝐓𝐲𝐻𝐿Dering is not here. So I'm going to admit, government regulation is killing the profession. And he'll tell you it's killing a lot of other things too, and he's probably right. But he's got an ally when we're talking about too much government regulation. But between it's education in this country is already pretty poor, and it's heading south. And it is fair to point out, which is why I said it, that, that one county, they're short 60 teachers in that one county. That's a problem they have to solve. So I can understand with the idea, and there was I think I missed the quote, but there was a member of the school board there that said, look, the human resources will find a way to do it, but we need the teachers. Okay, I understand that. Human resources is already overloaded. The teachers are all overworked. That's why they're not going, and they feel hated by many members of this community, including former presidents of the United States. I saw a recent thing on Twitter, which whenever I say I saw on Twitter, you can assume bad. I don't know if it's representative of the general feeling of the country, but I saw this thing on Twitter responding to somebody saying that so many teachers can't stay in teaching because of the money, and they have to leave and they have to go. And somebody said, no teacher ever quit because of not getting enough money. That is absolutely false. That is absurdly false. One of my favorite teachers, when he got a second child, had to quit teaching and become an administrator because he hated administrating. He didn't want to become the vice principal, but he got paid a lot more, and it actually was easier in many respects. So more pay. He's got a kid coming along. That's what he did. He wasn't a real teacher. Yeah, plenty of real teachers. We all have to make decisions. Just because I agree they should love it. Good teachers love it. But if they're not paid, you shouldn't have to explain this to a conservative, right? What the market is, what are they worth? I love baseball. What's a baseball player worth to this country versus a teacher? I think we have to fix some things. $20 super chat, Mr. 𝐒𝐤𝐜𝐡𝐨𝐥𝐚𝐬, $20. Appreciate what you do, sir. Thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. You're going to hear the spiel I always say. I try to have fun with the show, and I think everybody who contributes has fun with the show, but we take it seriously, and we get demonetized at least 50% of our shows. We show what's happening, and we've showed riots, we've showed war, and we've things I didn't think you could get away showing on YouTube. We've shown. But we get demonetized quite frequently, and it's our patrons and our supporters and people who super chat, and a number of you who've been with us from the beginning are in the live chat right now. So thank you, sir. I sincerely appreciate the super chat. So having said that, I think I'm gonna. This actually, you know what? This wasn't as long a show as I thought it was going to be. Now we do have. We're going to be doing. I do want to. Normally, we try to save the sort of show announcements not for overtime. This is the news program, but I'm excited about this. I'd like to let you guys know, and we just got a super chat, so maybe I was on vacation, and so we had a couple of shows that were pre-recorded, and we had done a show with Commander McMillan, who has turned out now, I think, to be one of my favorite guests in my entire history of ever being on YouTube, let alone doing this show. He is an amazing human being, and he and I have been talking off air. And having some very good conversations, and it's amazing what he knows and what he's been through, well outside of just working for the Fifth Fleet out of CENTCOM. So, so he and I were talking, and he has agreed to do off time for all of August. So, August, starting on Thursday, we're going to be doing a special episode of Off Time. It will be just Commander McMillan and I chatting. Very much looking forward to that. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. Anything else about future programming? Come join us again on the Discord. It's the easiest way to find out what we're doing. Everything's on Discord. I'm basically on Discord practically 24/7. We have mods there all the time, and a lot of good people. 3 a.m. right, Mr. a secret squirrel. He's, come in, chat. Thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a good night.